Okay, this video is about David Price, the up-and-coming bronze medalist as a heavyweight in the Olympics, and he's currently knocked out his last fight. He knocked out Sam Sexton quite impressively, who went 9 or 10 rounds of Derek Chisora. It was an impressive knockout, I have to say this, but I see that recently a lot of people seem to be clamoring for David Price. Everyone's jumping on a Price bandwagon. Price seems a nice enough guy. But as you know, boxing bouts are not one of being very nice. Yes, he does have a lot of power, and that was evident against Sam Sexton. But the question is, apart from Chisora fight and the Martin Rogan fight, what has Sam Sexton done? I've never been one, and I learnt this a long time ago, I've never been one to start jumping up and down about a fighter unless I've seen that fighter in a fight take a punch, come back after being a few rounds down, come back and turn a fight around. Then I can be convinced of a fighter. So far, David Price hasn't been hit in the chin hard. He hasn't had to come for a war. He hasn't had to deal with a guy constantly coming at him and having an argument with him. And until that happens, I will remain on the fence about David Price. Yes, he's big, he's tall, he's strong, he's rangy, he's got power if you walk into him. As you know, in the heavyweight division or in any division, one punch can change it and turn things round. So I'm not going to be on the bandwagon, nor was I on the bandwagon where it was with Kell Brook. And as you saw with the Kell Brook fight recently, what happened to Kell Brook when he stepped up into sort of world-class level, or a guy who'd been around a while. I'd like to see Price in a fight where a guy is able to absorb his power and hit him back and back him up and see him fight off the ropes. See him being put under a bit of pressure. A guy who'll walk through his punches and throw some back. There's talk about him fighting Derek Chisora. I'd like to see him have fought Derek Chisora before, when Chisora fought Helenius. At this minute in time, Derek's just come off a bad knockout defeat to David Haye. Personally, I wouldn't take that fight. I don't think Tyson Fury is going to fight David Price either. I think money-wise, it makes no sense. At this minute in time, Fury's on Channel 5. Price is a Sky Sports guy. So you know what's going to happen there. They'll probably avoid each other for a while. Typical boxing politics. The one thing I can't stand, and the Sky are doing it with David Price, they're hyping the poor guy up. They're hyping him up and hyping up David Price this. And then mention him in the same breath as Vladimir Vitaly Klitschko. Yes, he's got a big punch. Yes, if you were to connect on Vladimir's chin, he'd probably put Vladimir down. But my suspicion is that Vladimir put him down too. Vladimir connected. So it's as simple as that, to be honest. I think at this minute in time, Price needs some more learning fights. He looks a good prospect, but the alarm bells start ringing for me, going back to his Olympic days, where he wasn't able to fight well under pressure, and his chin wasn't the greatest. You've seen it with Amir Khan's career. Chin wasn't the greatest, been dropped in the amateurs, stopped in the amateurs, professional ranks. You're seeing a pattern. So we yet to see what David Price is really like. I'd like to see him getting on with his career and fighting. So it's just my honest opinion about David Price. He's unproven. He hasn't fought anybody yet of note, and I would caution anybody before jumping up and down and saying he's the next heavyweight champion of the world. Let's see this guy have some decent fights. Let's see him fight a couple of good names and put a couple of good names away, then we can start talking about him being at world class. But this minute in time, you know, he's just, you know, got this British title, you know, so let's see him defend it a few times, and see what happens from there. An interesting fight, strange enough. I don't know if they would put him in with Richard Towers. Richard Towers, which we saw fight the other day, he got wobbled, he got staggered, and people say, well, you know what, Towers should have got stopped. But Towers got through, he's still undefeated. But we know Towers has got a heart now. We're yet to see Mr. Price get into a fight like that. We know what Fury can do. We know Fury's been down, he's got up, he's been in a row. So, you know, he can fight, he can box, he can have a bit of a row, he can take a shot, he can come back. Let's see what David Price does. When David Price has a fight like Fury's done, then we can make a better assessment of David Price. So for now, my personal opinion of David Price, unproven, untested. Let's see what he's like after he's had a bit of a fight. I don't think that would be what Maloney wants to hear. He knows probably himself in his heart of hearts that he doesn't want to put Price in too deep. And he's not probably convinced of Price's chin. This is no dismissal of David Price. I think he's got a lot of talent there. He, you know, being in the Olympics, you know, you've got to have some skill and some talent. And the way he's put away Sexton.
You've got mail. You've got mail.
Thank you very much. The way he's put away Sexton and he's put away McDermott, he's done it with relative ease. So that's a good sign. If he starts putting some guys away in the top 20 like that, be interesting. So that's my views of David Price. Nice enough lad. He's not one who's going to be mouthing off, which may or may not work against him in this day and age, to try and sell a fight. Of course, if the Fury fight happened, I'm sure that would start some, you know, it'd kick off. But as for now, let's see you fight somebody decent, David. And I will leave from there.